Okay. Dear friends, let's start. Let me share the screen regarding the draft agenda of today. Okay. Dear friends, the draft agenda of today is given in the screen. We have two main agenda items. One of them is, while advocating UBI, a discussion on exploration of potential visions beyond our comfort zones. We hope it will be a brainstorming session, and we will start with a triggering presentation. Basic income, existing typical politicians, Lady Macbeth symbolism, and comfort zone. I will try to make this presentation. It will be a very short one. Another agenda item is a survey design regarding the future, year 2021 of worldwide meetings of UBI advocates and UBI networks. Maybe we can discuss about these. And then we will hear news from working groups and news from UBI advocates and UBI networks. Do you have any comments or any proposals regarding the agenda? I have a proposal. It will be maybe much better. Can we put this here? Third agenda item as a second agenda item, like this. Because it's a short one and we can do it very quickly. Can we make this modification? I can see some of you. Okay, that's great.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. It's okay.
So if you will continue with the survey design, I will continue to the next page. So I assume that the agenda is okay, and I'm continuing with the second agenda item, which is the survey design. So here. So we thought we should prepare a survey, and we should ask our friends regarding the next year, because we started in April. It was weekly, and in June we decided to have 2 times a month. So what should we do in 2021? For example, first question maybe this one. Let me make it blue. Shall we continue with the existing formula, which is second and fourth Tuesdays of every month, or should it be once a month? This is a major question. Another question is, should it be always at GMT 1430 or alternating at GMT 1430 and GMT 9 respectively? We can change all these. This is a draft. And we should also ask agenda suggestions for the meetings. Maybe if you would like to add something in the agenda, it will be great. And also further suggestions to be put into action during or even after the meetings. So these are the draft issues we prepared. Do you have any other comments or any other questions that should be asked within this survey? I cannot see you. Maybe I should, I can make it. Okay, here. Yes, please.
Can I ask just a quick question about the alternating times?
Yes.
Oh, does that mean that like one meeting a month would be at 14:30 and then the other one would be at 9? Or
if you will have 2 meetings in a month, one of them at 14:30, the other at 9 o'clock. But if you will have 1 meeting in a month, then in the first month it is 14:30, next month 9 o'clock. The question is because of the friends who do live in South Korea, Indonesia, and Australia, India, etc. It might be Japan also China, and some parts of Russia. So we thought we should ask this because you remember Peter Brake. He was joining us, but that time is midnight. This time is midnight. No, even after midnight. So he's having difficulties to join. So this is a question. Do you have any proposal, Sheila? Should we modify it? What is GMT 9 in your country? Oh, it's very bad.
too early in the morning to even contemplate.
Okay. So, or maybe we should make it late midnight. What you say? Now, instead of 9 o'clock, maybe we should say.
Ali, because of this global connections, you have to have at least 2 or 3 separate meetings. Because the other day we had a meeting and people from Washington, D.C. had to join 4:30 in the morning.
So what should be the question?
It's very difficult to capture everybody. Just make it zone by zone, 3 plus, 3 minus, and that's it. You have 24 zones.
But
if divided by maybe 4, that's it.
The point is, these friends are mostly gathering during the Basic Income Congress, BI Congress. But right now we are gathering through Zoom, so they know each other. So we cannot have more than 2, I guess. And maybe one of them at 14:30. Maybe the other can be. I mean, maybe. What about this?
No, give them freedom to join all of it if they wish to get up
Sure.
4:30 in the morning. It's their option, but they should have a reasonable option as well.
Let me do like this, dear friends. Before finalizing the questionnaire, let me ask to friends from South Korea and New Zealand and Indonesia. And based on their recommendations, maybe we can change GMT 9 to something else so that it fits to Canada time also.
But I'm just not sure you can do that. And there aren't that many of us here. But like if there are two meetings a month with a similar agenda, then Ali, I assume that you might be like the common denominator in all of this.
Yeah, Ali doesn't sleep as well, so that would be perfect.
Dear Peter, please.
Well, one thing I've noticed that our first meetings filled 3 screens and now we barely fill 1 screen. So there's something's tapering off, and we need to maybe survey as what people are interested in, or why have they dropped off, or, you know, because maybe it's too many meetings, or maybe the hours aren't convenient. I have no idea. Or maybe the subjects that they're interested in have been exhausted. Hard to know. Maybe if we knew the program for next year's BN conference and the topics, maybe we could choose some topics for kind of warm up for next year's BN conference, whether it's virtual or in Scotland. But anyway, that's just I've noticed the enthusiasm level seems to have fallen off, at least as indicated by the number of participants.
All right, we were about 70 people in some of the 70 friends in some of the meetings, but right now, but the issue is, dear Peter, I think at the beginning there was not many such meetings. Right now there are too many events, Zoom-based events, and it's impossible to follow all of them. In fact, I am happy with this. I'm not. It's okay. Because at the beginning, when we start in April, it was, I think, the first one internationally. And then, Ulrike wants to say, dear Ulrike, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it should be once a month. Because for me, it's the same. I have so many meetings and I can't follow every second week also. So I think it should be once a month. And also I think it should be with the time alternating. so that once we are the European people have an advantage and next the others.
Okay. Then we can finalize the survey with these questions and try to receive the answers.
Eric wants to say something.
Dear Eric, please.
Yes, I want to propose that we go step by step. The
Okay.
first question, once by month or twice, then we can even vote on that if we want, but we have to decide. And then we go step by step. The next question would be alternating and so on. But we should go through systematically from the beginning. So the first question is once or twice a month.
Eric,
I agree with Ulrike, once a month would be enough, but I don't want to enforce it that if we can ask everybody.
dear Eric, the idea is to prepare a survey and send by email and receive the answers from our friends. So these will be the questions in the survey. Is it okay?
That's okay for me.
Okay. Any other contributions or comments regarding the questions? I added. Yes, please.
Also, for me, also, it's a lot to be 2 times in a month with all things that we are doing. Now, for that, I couldn't participate all the time. And because also is the work situation, we need to do some works.
Yes. Dear Ivailo, I'm sure many friends will check once a month, and we will hear the results in few days, and then we will design 2021 accordingly. Dear Ulrike, would you like to say anything else?
No, I didn't put down my hand. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So can we assume that the survey design is finished and we will continue with these questions? Peter, are you happy with the last question? Is it okay? Dear Peter, are you happy with the last question? Oh, I mean, we will ask opinions or ideas. Okay, so I assume this is finished and we will continue with our second agenda item, which is while advocating UBI, a discussion on exploration of potential visions beyond our comfort zones. But as I mentioned at the beginning, I will make a very short presentation. It's a very simple one. Oh, Valeria, I just saw you are raising hands. Dear Valeria, please. Dear Valeria. I am okay. Okay, now it's okay. So we can continue with our agenda. So I'm continuing. Yes, I stopped sharing. Dear friends, let me start this small presentation. I have to share again. Okay. Dear friends, the main topic of today is while advocating UBI, a discussion on exploration of potential visions beyond our comfort zones. To trigger the discussions, I will tell a few things about these 3 topics: existing typical politicians, Lady Macbeth symbolism, and comfort zone. But at this stage, I will try to address these issues, but in the reverse order. I mean, I will start with comfort zone and Lady Macbeth and the typical politicians. In fact, it will include some of the survey results. I will show you one thing. It's very simple, maybe you know it, but it's very practical. That's why I will use it. You see 9 dots here. The question is how we can pass 9 points in 4 straight lines without taking our hands, I mean the pencil, off the paper. Very easy, very simple. So 4 straight lines and 9 points. But it's quite difficult. If you do it like this, start from the left top corner, it goes on like this, but still you have 1 point which you don't pass through. Or if you do it like this, again, there are 2 points which you didn't touch, so it's not acceptable as a result. If you do it like this, still the point at the middle is untouched, so it's not an answer, it's not a solution, let's say. So in fact, what we tried up to now is we always tried in our comfort zone. But in fact, there's a solution. It requires this approach. This approach, again, you have 4 lines and you are passing through 9 points. What's the difference? The difference is we are beyond our comfort zones, and it's possible to reach a solution beyond comfort zones. So this was one topic. Second topic is about Macbeth, William Shakespeare's Macbeth. The issue here, the Lady Macbeth and the General Macbeth, they come together. I mean, they are together. I mean, they are married, of course, but they make an organization and they kill the king with a dagger. So at the end of the night, or after the midnight, General Macbeth and Lady Macbeth has a bloody dagger in their hands. So their hands are bloody. So this is another painting where Lady Macbeth is attempting to clean her hands. Because after killing the king, General Macbeth became the king, and her wife became the Lady Macbeth. But they know that they are the killers. And during the night, Lady Macbeth was trying to wash her hands, I mean, doing like washing her hands, while walking in the corridors of the castle. And what she was trying to do is, she was trying to wash her hands, and she was trying to show that she is not killer. I mean, not show, but feel that she is not killer anymore. She has blood in her hands, but the blood is still there. I mean, although she's washing her hands, it doesn't go. So this was the second issue. I will connect them at the end. So comfort zone, first issue, we have to go beyond our comfort zones to find a solution. The second issue is if you have a bloody dagger in your hand and if you kill somebody, you are a killer. By washing your hand, you cannot be accepted as a non-killer, or I mean, you are still a killer. So third issue is, it was about an opinion survey. You know, we presented this in 15th of September during the Basic Income Week. It was an opinion survey, and luckily we received answers from 20 different countries. But very interesting. I mean, we have Kenya and United States, Philippines and France, Canada, Netherlands. I mean, very different countries are here. I mean, the answers are received from very different countries. And the topic of the survey was effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on the UBI movement, opinions of UBI advocates. So I will show you 4 slides. The first slide is, what do you think that politicians and political parties, do you think that politicians and political parties have an adequate understanding of UBI? Here, the results of the opinion survey was 49.5% no, 6.8% yes. So if you only consider the yes and no answers, which is about 56%, then more than 80% of the people think that politicians and political parties do not have adequate understanding of UBI. This is not good, but this is not the worst. We will come the worst answers after this slide. So second slide is a little bit different. You know, we believe that UBI will lead to the emancipation of people. And the question is, do you think that politicians and political parties are in favor of a UBI, which will lead to emancipation? And the red zone is 32%, blue zone is 6%. So yes and no's. And here it's very clear that, again, more than 80% of the yes and no answers is saying that they are not in favor of a UBI because it will lead to emancipation of people. This is very interesting. I mean, you remember the countries, very different countries, and still we have that big, 32% and 6%. So it's quite interesting. And last question is a dangerous one. I think that's why I have to mention this. Last question is, do you think that politicians and political parties are trying to denigrate the concept of UBI? 32% says yes, and 13.6% says no. Again, when we consider and only the yes and no answers, it's about 70–80% of the people say that they are trying to denigrate, degenerate the concept. I mean, maybe I should tell together with the next slide. In the next slide, the question was, are the integrities of the characteristics that define a UBI being threatened or not? And very interesting answers are received. For example, unconditionality, 47%, universality, 44%, individual payments, 22%, permanent, 31%, sufficient, 36%. So these are the opinions of the UBI advocates regarding the threats. So when we put these together, in fact, they are completing each other. I'm sorry. They are completing each other. So the point is, oh, maybe I should stop here and I should say a few words. The thing is, I talk about the comfort zone, and sometimes, in fact, most of the time, we have to move out of our comfort zones to find a solution, to find a way. And this is important. And in the second part of the presentation, we talk about Lady Macbeth. So Lady Macbeth here represents the existing politicians, I guess. So who are the main responsibles of the current status of our societies and the world? And considering the previous and existing political engagements, how it is possible to receive sincere support from these politicians? Aren't they a kind of Lady Macbeth? So these are the questions in my mind. And lastly, I would like to say, most of the time we are talking about a holistic evolution. Some people call it paradigm shift. Some people say changing value set. In fact, sometimes we are even talking about the evolution of ideologies. So this is, I agree with. And we are mentioning that, mentioning the importance of the technological developments regarding this evolution. It's also, I am happy with. I am happy with, I mean, I agree with. So the point here is, shouldn't our methodologies change also? I mean, we are trying to convince the politicians. If Sheila is here, maybe she can tell a few things about what happened in Canada during the last week, in fact, maybe last several months. So at the end of the day, suddenly they say, okay, it's not on the table anymore, and they don't do anything. So shouldn't our methodologies change? Shouldn't we try to introduce new methodologies, maybe with new approaches beyond our comfort zones, and with adaptation of technological advantages? So I'm not personally happy with the current status of the UBI advocacy efforts, because I don't believe that existing politicians and political parties are happy with UBI or something like UBI. They don't like the emancipation of the people. So that's why my point is, we have to find a way, or we have to open a way. And based on this small presentation, the main discussion of us is, I mean, today's main discussion agenda item is, while advocating UBI, what kind of potential visions are there beyond our comfort zones? How we can explore them? So this is the start of the discussion, and I am now stopping screen share. So I'm sorry it took more than I expect, but I guess it gave an idea what was in our minds. What do you think? Oh, dear Valeria, please. Dear Valeria, we cannot hear you. I guess you are not muted, but What's wrong? Dear Valeria, I'm sorry. Maybe if you remove your earphones, it will work.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now it's okay.
Okay. I wanted to say already at the first part that it's going to be maybe necessary to have more meetings if we will make more, I don't know, more interesting meetings or different kind of meetings. If we will talk outside of comfort zone, we can talk about the different things, not only about universal basic income. I wrote already in the chat how many different ideas I put in the Slovenian UBI discourse. I mean, in the media. We talked about UBI services. We talked about shorter working week together with UBI. We talked about universal basic income for children. Lately, we talk about mother's wage as UBI. And of course, we are developing UBI theory of justice. And of course, connected with that, we even started to dream about new social order connected with UBI idea. You see, so if I'm going far away from these 9 points you were drawing, I believe we can talk about different things. And I don't mind having like meetings on twice per month if we will make a broader agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very interesting contributions. Dear Ivailo, would you like to continue?
Yes, I'll be continue. And I'll be say something. I really want to start like this. Hope nobody not take anything personally. But most of the people who is UBI advocates all over the world, they are very naive. They are very, very naive. And this is the big problem. The second problem is that they don't know what is the target. And we have a very big situation now in the UBI in Europe for collecting the signature, because most of them want to be famous, want to take some money, want to be very important, want their words to be heard, but nobody takes care how we to collect the signature. Yesterday, I spoke with the meeting that we have with Guy Stanley, and I want to say something now. The problem with Lady Macbeth is that the blood is staying in her mind, not in her hands. Actually, to give UBI to the people in every one country, we need to change all the laws of the country. And nobody is thinking about this. And politicians don't like to change these laws, because they'll be out of the game if the law is be changed. And people need to start to be aware, start to know the law of the country, the economical law of the country, the social law of the country, because we have society, every one country is society with a lot of small groups in this society. And if Slovenia take now and Valeria the signature, she was going out of her comfort. She became to go for a president in this country. She went totally out of the control, and for that, Slovenia took the signature now. And when 7 years ago, I took the signature, I was make appointment with more than 100 different associations and NGO, going from one to the other, and most of them was saying no, But in one moment, somebody say yes, and Bulgaria collected more than 40,000 signatures. But the Bulgarian Ministry for the signatures told me that they don't count 20% of the signature in the paper. And now I'm not collecting signature in the paper. And this is so much stupidity in the UBI advocates all over the world. In 19 in December, we'll be have meeting for the UBI coordinators, and I thought that I want Valeria to speak and to explain to all the others how Slovenia have collected the signature. But they're so stupid, they don't want to invite her. And 3 times now I'm hearing the person from Malta who don't know where he is living. They have collected 11 signatures to now. And I need to hear now against tomorrow. If you don't go from your comfort zone, you couldn't change your mind. Can you imagine all of you that you are computers and you have the software programs? And if you don't change the software programs to yourself, how can you change the software program to all the others people? Just put and start to think of this direction. The UBI is not economical problem. It's sociology, it's psychology, and it's his mind, emotions, and the people who is ruling the world, they are ruling the world through corruption. And when we want UBI, we to stop them to steal and to have the corruption. Wake up, people. This is for now from me.
Thank you very much, dear Ivailo. I have similar thoughts. That's why I'm happy to hear these. Regarding the, okay, I just try to put something in the chat box. Maybe regarding your proposal to Valeria, maybe Valeria, we can hear you during the best practices during UBI advocacy efforts meeting. I mean, we will talk about this. I mean, why not? It will be great. Any other contributions, dear friends? Oh, dear Gerdur, please.
Thank you. I can't say your name. What is your? Where are you? Ivalio. Yes, you were talking about the corruption, that we have to realize the corruption, because it is the corruption that is stopping the UBI. We all know that. We always, so I totally agree that we have to go beyond our comfort zone, or we had to nag into other people's comfort zone, because I'm quite comfortable with most anything. The thing is that honesty has to take the leading role. And what Valeria was talking about, all those different chapters to talk about and all different matters to talk about, it is in fact for me only is not the word what I mean, but I think that is the specification of different aspects of the UBI. All the matters you were talking about is what UBI will solve and participate in and make more easy. And that is what I was trying to say yesterday, but I tend to speak too fast and too irregular for anybody to understand me. So I might have been too harsh, because I got the criticism that we are not going to introduce some extremism and things like that. But reality, we have to show us a group of people who are we are talking about utopia for realists. We have to be realistic by facing what is really happening in this world. We cannot go back to the usual and think that we have a usual or something acceptable to build our future on. It is just absolutely not acceptable. And that is I totally agree that we have to take chapter after chapter and show people what is missing and what we have to touch. And the thing is that we can be very ignorant to different things, because also that we do have different roles and different rules in each country. I've been talking about it for a long time, that UBI should be a mandatory obligation of every constitution of every state. It's a mandatory first expenses. The rest of the state budget will be for their disposal of whatever other expenses. And there is so much, we're talking about peace, and we are all peace loving and everything, but we hardly ever talk about stopping war. I think peace will not be manageable until we stop wars. And our president, our vice president, everybody, anybody, they never speak about, they never criticize the endless wars that we are having all over the place. If we stop, for example, the Scandinavian countries are in the weapons industry, all those hallelujah people are in the weapons industry. We are always talking about the enemies of that and enemies of that. Only the weapons and the enemies are made in the minds of people. And the propaganda makes all the enemies. So how political are we gonna be? Because I think that getting up in the morning is political. Because political is only to have an opinion. And do we have an opinion? And what is our opinion? And I think we should stand on the base of honesty and the base of the base of peace by stopping war. And we always talk about politicians like they're some kind of saviors or some kind of robots that have a different department in society. They do not. They are part of the society. And if they don't take the responsibility to be the representatives and protect their people, we should not show them all this respect, and they just have to step off their high seats and participate in society. So if we like in Iceland, for example, in our constitution, and I think the reason we have states at all is to guard society. That is what states are for. The economy was founded to help the state to divide equally between people. So we should claim that right. And if we don't have, we have it in our constitution, and most constitutions should have it. And that's why, because that's why the states were based in the beginning. So that is, yeah, now I think I've finished more or less my idea about this. And the thing is also like we were talking about, for example, the difference, what we should also talk in one of our future meetings. It's about the state of the work of unions after the UBI comes in, because the unions can then focus on protection of people, about their contracts, about their working conditions, about their possibilities in the future beyond the basic need for living. Hallelujah. That was it for the moment.
Thank you very much, Gerda. Very interesting contribution. Dear Reinhard, and dear Eric, and dear Peter. Peter, I just saw you, but Reinhard was raising hand. Dear Reinhard.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I just want to comment. I think your presentation, Ali, is very interesting and thought-provoking. But I would think that this solution which you suggested with out of the comfort zone, there's one problem with this sort of picture or symbol. It thinks that UBI is a sort of complicated problem and you just need to find the way how you can address it. I think UBI is a power problem, and that is a complex problem. Therefore, you will find people who will be opposed because it will mean a shift of power in society. And that is also, I think, with politicians. I don't think one can address and say all politicians are equal. For instance, Nelson Mandela wanted to introduce basic income in South Africa, but he was told by international institutions such as the IMF and business community in South Africa that it is not feasible and that it cannot be done. And basically, he had to retreat from his idea. And that brings me to the final point, is that it is the people. If the people are demanding it, and if there are sufficient people in favor, it will change. And I bring again an example, historical example from Germany. Bismarck introduced universal health insurance in Germany, not because he was progressive, but there was a serious risk of major riots and unrest at the time because of the power of the Labour Party in Germany. So he tried to counteract potential unrest, potential revolution by introducing it. And in order to introduce UBI, I think the most important step is to convince people. And there the question is, people, citizens need to understand the benefits. At the moment, there is a lot of confusion about UBI. Recently, we tried in the UK, one council rejected it. It was, I think, controlled more or less by the Conservatives, and they made a press release. If you want, I can send it to you. It creates a lot of confusion about UBI. It brings out all the sort of usual prejudices, but many people believe in it. And I think as long as many people believe that UBI is too expensive, unfeasible, people stop working, etc., you don't have sufficient pressure. And so it is like working in a quarry to try and convince sufficient people that it will be progress in society. So that there is no way out but to try and contact and talk to people in whatever different means you have got in order to create a critical mass majority of people who are sort of supporting it. And then politicians, because most politicians unfortunately are not visionaries, they just look at the sort of power situation in society and follow the power, then politicians will follow because they don't want to lose their position, or they don't want to risk major unrest in society. So that's all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, dear Reinhard. Thank you for your contribution. Dear Eric, would you
I
please
think
unmute yourself?
Peter was first. I think he was first. After that, after Peter.
Oh, okay. I saw. Okay, Peter. Then please, Peter.
Okay, I'll be brief. I think that abstract discussions of the role of unions or the military or whatever are just going to be like people's discussions at a university at midnight. We need to have discussions on concrete movements in specific countries or groups of countries, but something that is working and having some success. And if then we can learn from some concrete experiences. But discussing the abstracts, everybody knows these things that are students of UBI or politics in general. It gets you absolutely nowhere in terms of progress to rail against politicians or military or the wars and things. We have to talk about specific movements in countries or groups of countries that are actually making some progress in advancing UBI. I'd be interested in that. I'm not interested in going on for general discussions, and I won't participate in it, to be frank.
Thank you, Peter. Dear Eric, yes. Eric, you
Yes,
are unmuted. Okay.
Yeah, yes. Hello to everybody. So what I want to try to say is that we need new strategies. I absolutely agree with that, because if we are if we are very, very active, then we are provoking an anti-movement. So we have to be careful with that. So that's why I think once a month a meeting would be far enough if we meet once a month. I explain why. So in our second meeting somewhere in Nassem in May or something, I said that activists, whatever activity, whatever movement, they have little time to meditate. And that is our problem. We should meditate more to go forward, because we have to admit a lot of strategies we have used, it just was not appropriate, was not a good strategy. We have to admit that. So now I want to say something to Gerdu. I know Gerdu I agree with her in many points. We all know that for instance, Iceland has the oldest constitution in Europe. And what she said, so about 700 something, it's the oldest in Europe. And what she said about war is also very interesting. The problem is now we are in a war situation. What we have now is a kind of biological war. It's not atomic war, ABC weapons. You know, we had in the Second World War 2 atomic bombs. What now, it's even, we have biological weapons in use. So COVID-19 is a biological war. So that's why we have to bring our movement into the context. So if you are always using a strategy of Machiavelli, then I'm against that. Machiavelli is not good for us. So we have to be more careful with our movement. Yes, that's why last time I said basic income without any adjectives in the beginning. Because if you put an adjective before basic in unconditional, whatever, guarantee, you right away you have somebody who will disagree with that. So that's why our movement should start with basic income without adjectives. So, and that is good for the start. And then we should more meditate. And my last thought about our Bulgarian friend, Ivailo from Bulgaria. I agree with many points of him, and I really, it's fantastic how much signature they have reached in Bulgaria. But from my point, he's a little bit too pessimistic. We must still have the hope that we are moving forward. But if you are so pessimistic, then you can give up the whole thing. So we should move on, but with new strategies. And that's why your presentation was interesting, because we have to use new strategies, brainstorming. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Eric. Dear friends, I will continue with dear Koray, but I would like to say one thing. The very valuable contributions we are receiving, but do you think it might be interesting if these contributions are received by written also? I mean, you can write 1 or 2 lines, not long reports, but please put it into the email group, and then so everybody receives it. Maybe we can collect them and prepare a 1 page or 2 page something. Let's say 2 points from Peter.
Yes, I write quite a lot of emails, and I will in future. I will always write future on the list, on the mail.
Yeah,
list.
but
Okay.
very short, few lines. It will be great.
Okay, I will do that.
Not only you, I mean all our friends.
For all the list, yes, for all the mailing list, yes. Okay.
Thank you, Eric. Dear Koray, please unmute yourself, Koray. I guess you are muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I agree with all of you. We need a new strategy. You may remember sustainability, the concept of sustainability. It was brought by Greenpeace or this and that, whatever. But all the major multinationals really picked up on it, and all the chairmen, CEOs, everybody's signing up on it. They have OKR, objective key results for KPIs, and it's in the system now. So basic income should be one of those things that we should sell to Jeff Bezos or Alibaba. I mean, they should pick up on this. And once they pick up on this, then they will run with it. Then all the governments and politicians have to follow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Koray. Another out of comfort zone proposal. Paul, dear Paul, you are muted. I cannot see. Okay, please unmute yourself. Okay.
Okay. Actually, I think Jeff Bezos is part of the problem, not part of the solution. But there you go. Koray. Yeah, what part of our problem is that we're divided. As a movement, we're divided. The first BN conference that I went to, we had libertarians from the right, we had libertarians from the left. Okay, the ones on the left were more numerous than the ones on the right. Some of us see basic income as a solution to a welfare problem. Some of us think it's a human right. Some of us think that children should receive it. Some of us aren't sure. Some people think that if you're in jail and you've committed a crime, that you shouldn't receive it. Some people think it's only citizens that should receive it, which obviously misses out migrants. So as a movement, I think we need to continue discussions to try and be less divided. That's one issue. Thinking outside the box. My view is that the truth is that the economy and politics has been captured by a very small number of people on this planet. And basic income addresses an economic issue for many people on the planet. But we still got to address the political issue. And I certainly, from a UK perspective, and from what I've seen in many countries, trying to convince politicians, I don't know if that's a good use of our time. I've said it before in these discussions, and if you've seen the banner behind me, I see citizens' assemblies as the political equivalent of basic income. And if you had something along the lines of a Trust the People campaign, what that means is trust the people to make right decisions in a citizens' assembly if they are given the right expert advice with no lobbyists in there, just experts who have to declare what kind of funding they get. So if they are receiving funding from fossil fuel industries, they have to declare that and are regarded as biased after they've declared that. But yeah, I think we have to maybe go broader and go for the political dimension as well as the economic dimension and trust the people. I think that's a decent tagline. What things have worked? I think we're at a point in history right now where before COVID, I could walk the streets of the UK and talk to many people, knock on their doors, talk to many people, and time again, they would say, where will the money come from for something such as free broadband? Never mind a basic income. And I think what COVID has done is it's given us a window of opportunity, because people are going to stop asking where's the money coming from, because they've seen themselves that under COVID, the money's just coming from all over the place. Okay, all of it is going to business first and people second. And it should be the other way round. Another suggestion, and I take this from Andrew Yang in the United States, he trialed what he should call it, and basic income wasn't the answer, it was the freedom dividend. And I think that we should take note of that if we call it the freedom dividend, he was getting a lot better response than if he called it basic income. So maybe that's something that we should consider as well. And I think also we need to make the links. People see COVID as a standalone issue. It isn't. There are many links between COVID poverty, and the climate and ecological emergency. The source of all of those problems is the same, and that is a massive concentration of power and wealth. So I've thrown a few things in there, but I hope I've stimulated some ideas as to how we might think outside the box. The last one is that, yeah, I did say, you know, I think politicians are a waste of time by and large. I think we should target the unions. That's how bad we are, is that many unions across the world, they don't support basic income. Some of them do, which is great, but they're not supporting it because they're blinkered. They're looking at it from the point of view of, we want to protect our workers, we want to protect jobs. And basic income threatens that kind of mindset. So I think it really is time to target unions all over the world as well. I'll stop there. Ooh.
Thank you, Paul. I have many questions, but I hope you will be with us till the end of the meeting. Now, Ulrike, dear Ulrike, word is yours.
Yes, thank you. Well, I want to say a lot of things. For the last, Paul, I want to answer that the union's leader don't support the basic income, but I know I'm also a member of a union, and I know the basic of unions. They are very interested, and some of them are for the basic income. And I want to agree to Eric, because also I think it is a good idea only to talk for basic income and maybe less, do not use the adjective. Well, I want to say an optimistic sentence, because one of you said he should not be pessimistic. Because in the point, if political parties or not, for me, I believe in the people, in the strength of the people. But anyway, we have to work in the political parties, and we have to work in the unions to get the majority for the basic income. And in Germany, maybe you have heard, the Green Party had at the 22nd of November a big meeting, and they pronounced their new program. And in this program, we got the sentence, with this, we are going along with the leading idea of universal basic income. And that, I think, was a big success, because the leaders of a party, they didn't want. They tried to, well, they didn't want, but the majority, it was 62% who voted for this sentence. So it's one optimistic thing, and we will continue with this in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ulrike. Dear Valeria? Okay, you are here. Dear Valeria, again, we cannot hear you. Please.
Okay.
Now it's better. Okay.
Okay. Yes, I would like also say several things about the name. Yes, I do agree, and I do get a lot of suggestions how to change it. But you see, we worked for 10 years to brand it, to make a brand out of it. It's not only our work, it's also ideology behind it. It's when we are saying UBI, people connect that with the books of Guy Standing and Philip van Parijs. I cannot change all of that because I lose the theory. I have a good theory. Now I have to make it work in practice. Okay, that's the first point. The second point is, yes, I do agree we have to go to the politics. But if I may say so, you see, left politicians don't agree with me, right politicians don't agree with me. And I believe this is because I'm an expert. So the problem is that politicians don't know how to react to expert suggestions. And I have to say that advocates don't know either. Because you see, what I'm trying to teach people is to judge how good proposal is, how close to idea is. As I said, in Slovenia, we have now 3 different schemes connected with universal basic income idea. The first one is the wrong because it's conditional. I wrote it in the chat. The second is because they provide services, but not broad enough. And lately, I hope you can smile with me. They proposed UBI for church workers, you know, for the clerks. And we fight in Slovenia a lot about that because they don't pay any taxes. And now they are the first group in Slovenia they will get UBI. It's funny. It's funny, but it's great. It's the first group of people they don't need to, they are not conditioned to get money. They don't need to prove anything. And as I said, if I would make, I would get a chance to get to implement UBI 10 years ago, it would be wrong probably. And now it's good that we have so many mistakes because people are learning all the time what's wrong with it, how we can damage the idea. We have now 3 different kinds of UBI and all of them are wrong. But we can hear the term, you know, our government is, I don't know, stupid or whatever. They are stealing our brand. They're talking about basic income all the time, So I'm just, and the strategy, you see, out of the comfort zone, if I may. Ali, yesterday I spoke about the Guy Standing and Philip van Parijs going to Croatia. The member of the European Parliament is inviting us. I'm going there as well, you see. And we talked that I can help Croatia to start develop the idea. It's great. Croatia, it's also like the desert land. No basic income network is there. And I can go there and develop something from the scratch. I believe it's going to be great. But the most important thing is, I wrote today to President of Republika Slovenia. I know, please, I apologize, but for the people who don't know, I'm from the country of 2 million people, okay? So if I'm writing to my president, I've met him 3 times before in my life. But nevertheless, okay, I wrote to him, please, Croatia, our member, we are competing them, our neighbor, they're asking me to get UBI ideas. Will you let them to steal you the expert? What I'm saying is, You see, I'm playing all the time along, very flexible. I'm jumping from one window to the next window. Okay? I mean, it's fun. Also, it's very sad what is going on with COVID, but it's also very, very interesting for basic income movement in Slovenia. It's true.
Thank you, Valeria. Very, very interesting contributions. Dear Gerdur, dear friends, by the way, we will hear Gerdur, Shira, Ivalo, and then Rair, I guess. Okay, I take my note. And also, Rahul, would you like to? Dear Rahul, maybe at the end. Okay, if you have time. Okay, please, Gerdur.
Sorry. What I stumbled upon is that we were talking about basic income as a human right, but in fact that is not exactly what it is, because what is the human right? That is the access to moderate or dignified livelihood and access to society. The only way for the government to fulfill that obligation is via UBI. It is the terms of payment to come to terms with their obligation of giving us, everybody, access to society and basic livelihood, or dignified livelihood. That is what is the human right on its own. And the other way how to do it is not possible in my idea. And another thing, I think it's necessary to have universal basic income and unconditional. It's very important, because basic income itself will not help people to lead their life, to do something with their life beyond. Because, for example, I take here in Iceland, we are not even a million. We are 350,000 altogether, and we have all the same problems as the big nations, but in, of course, different scale. But the thing is, what is here? We have a welfare system, but you are measured. It's by means. You are measured if you're incapable physically or mentally or whatever. These people are being ignored. They get support far below their possibilities to live a decent life. That is why it has to be unconditional. Basic income can be anything, and that will mean that all the Scandinavian countries can say, we have basic income, we don't have to do anything. And so many countries, they can be so pleased about their basic incomes, which doesn't supply them with hardly anything. I think it's better that we have basic income. If we say, okay, our target is UBI, but our stepping stones are, then we have limited basic incomes. But that is not the target. And I think that also one thing that we really is a very dangerous today, we are talking about the will of the people. The will of the people, I regret to say, is very much a very private thing that doesn't get out of the door, because the will of the people doesn't count, because the votes are being bought. The politicians are being bought, and we know that, and they run the governments, majority of them, for their parties, and their goal is this or that. But finally, when they get on board the political power, their power goes into direction of re-election. So that is why it's so important that what I am trying to do here is to get open discussion with singular politicians, to have their open mind. So they have to have their name behind the decision, but not the political party somehow. And what is dangerous now, that is this propaganda, the propaganda power, which I would like to send you a historian, a historian who talks about the COVID and propaganda in general, because propaganda is taking our minds and the minds of people. Like, for example, Jeremy Corbyn, he didn't win the election in England, not because he didn't have the people behind him. Everybody in England knew where the people were behind him. And Bernie Sanders didn't win the election or didn't even count in the American election. It's because our voices are heard and we have the majority, people have a majority behind them, but you don't get anywhere because the power of money is running the world today, or somehow we have to find a way how to beat that. And that is, I want to send you this lecture from Gunilla Ganser. He is a Swiss historian. It's amazing how he explains the whole thing. Do you know him? He's brilliant. So he talks about all the false flags and how things have been pushed through the systems, with propaganda and lies. And that is what we have to be aware of and count into our actions. That was it for the moment.
Thank you, Gerda. Thank you, dear Sheila.
Thank you, Ali. My head is spinning. I have lots and lots of ideas based on what people have been talking about. I think this is a really rich discussion, and I'm going to have to leave shortly, and I really regret that. But I think some of the things that struck me just based on the Canadian experience, I think are, I'm just going to list a few things, and it may just be incoherent. I agree very much that we really do need to take this time, or a little bit of time now, to meditate, to slow down a little bit, to look at what we've done, what's actually accomplished something, what it's accomplished, and where we might need to redesign strategies. But I'm also going to channel our dear friend Tony, who isn't with us today, who would say always, we haven't achieved what we wanted to yet. So I think we shouldn't dismiss a lot of the strategies we've already used simply because they haven't completely worked yet. I used to work inside government for years and years, and actually had the privilege of working on a taxation issue where there was major change. And it took some little known women's organizations that actually didn't have very much power, but managed to do something strategically interesting. It took the media. It took a Supreme Court case that was lost, but the decision was still influential on what we were trying to do. It took a bunch of people working in the background behind the scenes. It took a UN meeting and a gaffe that one of the politicians made in our House of Commons. So you never know which thing is actually going to push things over the edge. So, don't put all your eggs in one basket, I think is kind of my message about that. And the other thing that I take away from this, this weird stars aligning that we can't predict, that somebody talked about, I don't know if Jeff Bezos is the one, but actually getting some star power from, I don't know, athletes, musicians. I mean, this is where the popular mood comes from, right? So, I mean, that's something I think about. I don't know how to do that personally, but that's something I do think about. The other thing around naming, I think in different countries, there may need to be different marketing strategies. I think Yang, brilliantly understood what would sell in the United States. His same pitch and his same concept would not have worked in Canada. I can almost guarantee you that. It wouldn't have been the same thing, but he understood his market. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah, that we see in Canada very much the thing that people have been talking about, the distinction between what's happening with leadership and what's happening with rank and file. We see it in unions, we see it in political parties, we see it in social policy organizations, we see it everywhere. the rank and file are coming on board. It's the leadership that is resistant, and that sort of institutional kind of mindset. And the last thing is that our current finance minister, so this personally, like, it alternately inspires and depresses me. So she used to be a journalist. She is connected to all of these plutocrats through her work as a journalist. She wrote about this. I mean, she wrote one of the definitive books on plutocracy. She talks about cognitive state capture and, you know, how these ideas work. She talks about the role of government and states needing, like, the brains, the capacity, and the will to be able to work in the public, in the common interest, rather than in business interest. And now she's our finance minister, and it's like she's forgotten everything she wrote in that book. I don't know what you do with, but I think in one way, like, it may provide ammunition for us in the future to be able to do something. Ali mentioned earlier that we've had a bit of up and down lately in Canada. So she and the finance minister and our prime minister basically announced at a town hall that there really is no path to basic income right now. And immediately following that, there was a major news network little video and article that was put out with lots of basic income supporters across the country and from different aspects of the issue, politicians, academics, basically saying the issue's still alive, we're not going away. So, you know, who knows? So I find this discussion very useful, because we are in this mode of, you know, really trying to think about strategizing for the future now. So thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Sheila. Very interesting experiences. Dear Ivailo, would you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, I said mute myself. Now, dear friends, I go another point now. If everyone really wants to have the unconditional basic income, and I say unconditional basic income, what Valeria taught, it's need to learn the constitution of the country and all the laws of the countries, because nobody will do this for you. Second, what Valeria also say, we are working 10 years about unconditional basic income. In 2015, when Hillary Clinton lost the election, she told that the big mistake, she did 3 big mistakes in her company, and one was that she couldn't do the company over the unconditional basic income. But because the Americans in a thief, they steal this from us with Andrew Yang and start to speak about universal basic income. And they changed many things, because when you make a trademark and when you separate the trademarks, then you lose the people. And they are doing very good these centuries now, 2 centuries, unless the last 100 centuries, they're separating the world to pieces. The other things, it's very good if you want to sit to meditate, but before that you need to read. Because if you don't read from where something is going, how is the country going, doesn't matter if you meditate or not meditate. And I'm telling this because I'm leading meditation, and 4.5 years from my life have passed in India. It's very nice to use words, but it's good to know what you are using in the words. And I am not negative, but I don't know how many of you knows what to collect 4,000 signatures in the country for 7 million. And there is also, Valeria said something, we have some, how to say, we have something that no one of you have it, because how Valeria said, I just wrote and I can go to the president of the country or to the vice president. 2 months ago, I have appointment with the vice president of the country. She is from the Socialistic Party, but I don't want to work with them because they want to do what 5 stars in Italy did and Podemos in Spain did. Just they used the name of the unconditional basic income, and after that, they destroyed the idea. And for that, I told the Socialistic Party in Bulgaria that I don't want to work with them. What they did, they give something like a basic income to 1,200,000 families in Spain and 1,200,000 families in Italy, and they destroyed the idea now. And if you don't start to read, and if you don't try to speak with many different societies, because everyone's societies, their mind is working in a different hertz. And all the society of the country is 1 hertz, but the small group in society have this different hertz. And you need to find the way to speak in every one of the small society, because when you're using some words in one society, this is meaning something, in another society, this is meaning another things. This is like the radio station. You have the radio station in the house and you change the waves. And when you go to one radio station, you hear the music for one society. When you go to another station, you're hearing the music for another society. And this is how the society is separated. And this is also with the TV station. This is also with the newspaper, the magazines. And if you want to succeed, you need to find the way to touch every one of these society. Otherwise, you couldn't succeed. Just imagine things and start to read the history of the things. Start to read from where the things is going. Start to see how somebody just want to use something to become famous, to steal money, to become important, to go to political things. This moment we have a big problem in Europe because the people who vote for the core group, they're working against the ESI. This is the big problem. Ali knows, Valeria knows. And this is because they want to be somebody, and they want, one of them there want to be politician. And they destroy the campaign. And I'm not negative, I'm totally realist. And I know many things, and I have passed through many things. And I know how to collect the signature. I'm sick 15 days with COVID now and pneumonia. I'm not going outside, but Bulgaria have collected 2,500 signatures. And I didn't start to work. And when somebody passes through the practice, when somebody passes through the theory, only then the person know what to do, because the life is experience, theory, practice, theory, practice, theory, practice. Just sitting and speaking is not happening anything. If really people want to happen something, they need to law of the countries and they need to move their ass. Sorry, this is from me. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Ivaldo. Dear Eric and dear Rahir, we will continue like this. Dear Eric, please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself, Eric.
Yes. Do you hear me?
Rahir,
Okay.
Okay, maybe first Rahir and then Eric. Please, Rahir.
Okay. Yes, the question of strategy and what to do out of the box have been asked. It was in 2016 or old. In France, we are not we were not a complete and solid movement. We were a gather of different ones for making a big organization for defending the same line in France. And for us, was seeing what we want to do together. In fact, it is to put the basic in the law. Someone, a politician or the people, will put it. And we didn't choose between these two options. The problem is not in the theory, in fact.
Dear
Yes?
we cannot hear you well. I mean, especially last few sentences, we couldn't understand. I mean, something maybe not good with the connection. Do you think you can just stop video and maybe you can talk close to the laptop? Would you please?
Is it better?
Relatively, yes, but maybe it will be better. Okay, but please, would you please repeat the last 3 sentences, because I guess our friends and me, we couldn't hear you well.
I say one of the problem is to know, to make the difference about what we want to do together. Because one part of us want to defend the idea until some people or some politician have to put it in the law, or if we have to think and put it ourselves in the law by winning election or supporting good candidate for making it. The problem of that is not the but in the action. Problem of one want a basic income, whatever it is. And the problem of that is this basic income is often very liberal and doesn't please to all of the people that work with us. So the difficulty is to conserve a full and current organization by this two divided vision of the basic income. For us, one of the solution is not to choose and to make some kind of citizen assembly, something like with 30 or 40 citizens to make choose the concrete solution of making a basic income. The problem of that is what Ivailo said. There is a lot of law in our country, and making in place concretely the basic income have to make change a lot of laws. So we add the map for the French example, what we can change and what kind of law we have to change. But the problem is we are not competent on this law that we have to change. So we generally need some other kind of people that can say or told us what kind of good thing we have to change in this law. For example, a basic income have a huge impact on social security and on place, how do you say that, on housing market in France. And the problem of that is that it exists some laws that have to be changed, but we know anything about the question of housing, and we are not enough competent for changing the law on the social security. So the problem for us is to get a larger picture of those kind of problems. So I'm very for that we discuss of every situation you have in your country and explain to us the political context and what kind of marketing you adapt for it. Because for us, it's better to have some example, not on the basic income, but on the field related to basic income that have to be changed for implement the basic income. And the last thing was on the union, to say the problem with the union, we have the same thing in France, it's the head of the union and not the popular base of the union. But the problem with the union is it's difficult to make talk about why we produce what we produce and not how to do it. Generally, unions are interested by the work conditions, but not necessary to think about why we produce things we produce. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahir. There was, at the moment, Eric, yeah, please, Eric, I'm sorry. I
yes,
forgot.
can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, I'll try to share a screen if it's possible. If not, doesn't matter. I try, yes? I try to share a screen. It's disabled. I cannot share screen. Can you
Please
change?
Please try again to avoid Zoom bombers, because you know we are distributing
Okay,
to.
I got it. I got it. Yes. Can you see the screen now? Also, please read it. Sri Chimoy was here in Hungary, I think several times, and he gave a concert as well, and it was for free. So it's a very, because we were talking about meditation. Okay. We were talking about meditation and how important. I can stop the screen, but I have one more. But yes, about how important can be meditation. We see that now. But I don't want to be misunderstood. I have to explain this situation of war again. So I don't want to be misunderstood. That's why I have to. What kind of war? It's a completely new kind of war we are at the moment. So it's rather something like a generation war. The war, a conflict, but it's more than a conflict between generations. So the young and the old generation. And it's frightening. It's very frightening what happened now with COVID. You know, it's really something like a biological war. And now we are coming with this basic income. Our people, they have other problems at the moment. But of course, basic income is very important for me, especially. But I know, but we have to, that's why we have to be very careful now, our strategy, because we are, in one time, we are in a situation of a psychobiological war. Biological war with COVID-19. I don't know what parts are the young people and the old people. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. I share one screen more. Yes, if I can. But just a minute, I have to open something. No, it's not this one. Yes. So I share one screen. Let me share one more. No, that was the old. It's not, just 1 minute, please. Because I have to open it. No. I hope it will function now. Not, wait a minute. Yes. So can you see this picture now? Can you see it? Hello? Can you see the picture?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay, please read it, yes? That is in French, but I have translated into English on the top. So you can say, a young man walks faster than an old man, but the old one knows the way. It's an African proverb. So that's why so I stop sharing now. So we are in this kind of problem at the moment. You know, we have to look at it. A lot of leaders, political leaders in Europe, they are very young. And let's say the French leader. What's his name again? What's his name, our French leader? Sharon. What's the name of the French leader, the political leader at the moment?
Macron.
Macron, merci. Macron said, when the COVID started, he said, we are in the war. And he's right. But he's very young. And the Finnish leader is a young lady. She's only 30 years old. Hungary, when Orban came to the power, he was the youngest in Europe. So he was the youngest leader at the time in 1998. So what I'm trying to say, now the young people are coming and they have a lot of power at the moment over the older people as well. So we have to be very careful with all our contributions, with all our thoughts. We have to go new ways, new strategies, because I agree with Shaila. Not all the strategies was not appropriate. We have used good strategies as well, but now we have to, at the end of the year, we have to say what was good and what was bad, and what we have to renew, new ways, we have to find new ways. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. As far as I see, nobody is raising hand, but maybe we would like to hear friends who didn't speak up to now. Luke, would you like to say anything? Or Shobana? Or Ingun is here, dear Ingun. Pekka is here. Olaf is on the way, I know. Let's do like this. If you like, I can share one thing regarding the first item of our agenda. Oh, well, no, not this one. Here. One second.
Shobana wants to say something.
Shobana, please. Shobana, please.
Thank you, Eric, for the interesting session. I joined late, I'm sorry. And anyway, it was quite interesting. But the thing is, I find, because I'm working with the youngsters for so many years, nearly 31 years, a lot of youth, we are speaking a lot, but they are able to bring about transformation. So I always believe that youth can bring transformation. So we have a lot of ideas. Unless and otherwise we involve the youth, our mission will not be successful. So at least 70 to 90% we'll have to involve our youth. So they know the way how to implement. But the problem is, they're quite challenging. We'll have to satisfy all their questions. Unless and otherwise, they are satisfied thoroughly, and because they have more data than us. They're so shrewd than us. They are have a lot of knowledge, and so they have all the questions. So if we are able to satisfy the questions, we'll be able to use them for bringing transformations. I feel all of us can use a lot of youth, and they'll empowering the youth will help us to bring about this basic income a reality. And also empowering the youth can be done with the help of a universal basic income, because nowadays the youth major problem and their challenge is unemployment, and to study itself they have to earn a lot of money, because education has become a highly commercial product now. And so if they are given basic income, if it is universal, they will also get their share. So naturally their social contribution will come, and this universal basic income or whatever is the right policy can be implemented very easily. They'll be able to do it. That's my belief. Thank you.
Thank you, Shobana. Dear Ivailo, may I say a few words before you? I would like to ask something to Paul.
Okay.
You can also answer it. Dear Paul, you mentioned that we should be in contact with the unions. From unions, I understand labor unions. I mean, in this case, am I correct?
Yeah, I mean,
okay. No,
pretty much any advances that have happened in the world have come about through unions.
Yeah, but Paul, we had a contact and we met twice with a major union. I mean, the chair of the union, and we spent about 3 hours in one of the meetings. They are from the metal and automotive industry. The number of the members are going down, and their network is not that big anymore. I mean, production units, they are not anymore accepting this union's representativeship. My point is, the key here is the union unite. I mean, these two are the keywords. Should there be something like basic income unions? And it is something like demanding this and protecting this, and it will in fact secure the country also. I mean, because, you know, basic income is something against corruption. I mean, in my country especially, because the execution power and the legislation power if they're at the same hands in the governmental level or municipal level, it doesn't matter. The leading party or the opposite party, it doesn't matter. If execution and the legislation is in the same hands, or a party who has to be competing for legislation power is also competing for execution power, then they are quite degenerated and becoming criminal organizations. So the unions concept maybe used like a, I mean, maybe we can have some inspirations from UBI labs also. UBI labs are not exactly unions, but maybe more bigger number of people can join and organize a union, okay, and they may be named from their geographical locations or from some other common point. But at the end of the day, basic income unions might be interesting. I don't know. I want to ask this to you because it was your words to contact with the unions. And maybe Ivailo would like to comment on this too, because I know he has very good contacts with the unions in Bulgaria too.
Yes, just I want to mention this. Actually, in this moment in the world, there is two type of workers, formal and informal workers. And the percent is like this. 46% if the workers all over the world is informal workers. And 54 is formal. And the trade unions is working only for the formal workings. Informal, maybe the woman, I don't remember the name, from India now, I think that she's from SEVA. And SEVA is one of the biggest organizations from the informal workers in the world. And actually, how the things is going, because this year to now maybe around between 350 millions to 500 millions will be lost their jobs this year. And possible half of them will be not have work. Things is going like this next year. I think maybe next year, the informal workers in the world will be more than formal workers. And the trade union and the businesses, they will be going smaller and smaller now. And they are very good connecting the boss organizations for trade unions with the boss organizations for the business. This time, I can choose the trade union that support me 7 years ago, because for 7 years, they have the same person from president, but he is totally involved in politicals and the party who is ruling the last 10 years the country. And they don't want to hear about basic income because they are gonna be dead. Because if you really have a good basic income and the basic income is working, the trade unions is going out of the games. And they are start to understand this. But what can be happen? There is a possibility to find, how you're saying, through the informal workers who don't have protection, they don't have social protection, they don't have any protections. Maybe if it's doing something basic income union through informal workers all over the world, this will be a very good connection. And except Europe, that we have the less informal workers in Europe, European Union, sorry, because in Europe there are a lot, but in European Union, maybe will be one of the last that will be less the formal workers. But all the other countries all over the world, I'm sure next year the informal workers will be more than formal. And all of you can see what is possibility to connect all these people for the UBI.
Paul, please.
Yeah, I think it's really important to distinguish between formal and informal. I mean, I've seen it here in the UK where the formal unions have not really played a big role with, let's say, delivery workers. So you've got international unions coming in or being formed to protect delivery workers. They use completely different tactics and they often win. And what we're finding is that those kind of unions are more effective sometimes because the formal unions are bound by the laws of each particular country. What you say about basic income unions, I think that's really a really interesting idea. And I myself, I'm involved in a tenants union. We're all used to unions being, you know, protecting workers, but in this case, it's protecting tenants. And basically, what we'll do is offer advice to tenants who are facing eviction, and we'll even go round. 50 to 100 of us would go round every time that there's an eviction. So the idea of a union for something that isn't to do with the workplace is, yeah, why not? Basic income union. And that reminds me also of another institution that started here in the UK, and that was the building societies. And the way that they started was that everybody would contribute to the building society, and at random, one person would be chosen out of a hat. And the money in the building society would be spent on the house for that person. And then over time, the next person, then the next person. And that's how a lot of people managed to get their houses built in this country over 100 years ago. And you could apply that to a basic income union as well, where people put money in, and one person out of I don't know how many could actually receive a basic income. So I think that's definitely thinking outside the box, Ali, and I think it's a really interesting idea that we should maybe explore more.
Dear Paul, I was trying to take notes, but I think I will re-listen today's session from the recordings once again. Another issue is maybe we will not finalize it today. My proposition is maybe we should continue with these discussions in the next session too, because I'm sure after this session, after a one night sleep, we will have, or most of you will have new ideas. I mean, next morning you will say, okay, why didn't I mention this? I believe so. But thank you very much. Very interesting inspiration. I mean, unions, a different story. Eric, please.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes,
please.
Yes, yes. I want to say something to Shobana. I read her paper for Hyderabad, and it was really good. I learned a lot from your paper. Very good paper you have written for Hyderabad in this justification for biblical justifications. So for Christian or for, it was very, very good, your paper. So I learned a lot from your paper I didn't know before. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric, for a note.
Dear friends, any other contributions or any other questions? So let me share the agenda of today. Where was it? It is here. Okay, here. So I assume that we finished this agenda item 2. I mean, at least we are stopping here today, and we can hear news from working groups or from UBI advocates and UBI networks if there are any news. But let me show this screen once again, because there are new friends who joined lately to our session. Dear friends, at the very beginning, we changed the order of the agenda items, and we discussed the survey design at the very, very beginning. And we will have a survey in the coming 2-3 days, and it will ask these questions. Whether shall we continue with the existing formula, I mean the second and fourth Tuesdays of every month or not, or should it be once a month? Another question will be about the timing of the meetings. Should it be always at GMT 14:30, or should we have one at GMT 13:40 and one at another time to receive contributions from other time zones like China, Japan, Indonesia, New Zealand, Australia, etc. Another question will be about any agenda suggestions for the meetings, and also further suggestions to be put into action during or after the meetings. I mean, it doesn't have to be agenda item only, but maybe some action that may be taken. And also there's a contribution from dear Peter how to make the meetings interesting, any new ideas. So this is the survey design. We will finish it accordingly and share the link of the survey by email. So, any news from any friends? Additional news? I guess none. Okay, then we can finish our labor of today. Hope to see you on 22nd of December. Most probably, do you agree to continue these discussions? I mean, beyond comfort zone or out of the box solutions? Please unmute yourself and evaluate what you think. Should we continue with these discussions? It was very beneficial for me.
I say something.
Dear Ivailo, we couldn't hear you.
Need to be on it, and really, you hear me now?
Yeah, now.
Hello?
Yes, now it's okay. Yes.
And now it's okay. And really, the UBI advocates need to start to learn the law for every one country, and we need to speak about the law of the countries. Because we need to know, because when you go in the politics, if you want to change the law, there is a big games. Because changing law is not they're thinking about people, they're just protecting somebody's interests. And if you really want to success, you need to know how the politics play their games. But if you don't know the law of the country, let's say I can make one thing. I have made a presentation from Bulgaria about changing the law. Maybe I can make this presentation in English and I can show about Bulgaria what some of the things, some of the points that need to be changed in the law. And this is because I know the law of my country. I know how the European Union is working, because if the European Union, we succeed with the ESI, they can say, okay, every one country need to do, but every one country need to do in their way, because we have contracts, every one of the country has contracts with the European Union, how we'll be working, and we have different laws, the country, and we have different laws in the European Union. And if we want to have basic income in Bulgaria, because of succeed of ESI for the basic income, we need to be put it to Bulgarian laws. And I have did this, how we can do the UBI in Bulgaria with Bulgarian laws and the European laws. Because if you don't go in a deep situation, if you stay in the top of the sea, you never know what has the sea down. And this is that need to be done in every one country. People need to start to see what is the laws that need to be changed if you want to have the UBI. And people need to start to understand and to think, and I think that this is the way. If you speak for all the people all over the world, and they to stand to understand, because you couldn't, in every country there will be changed different laws. Just this is very important, people to start to understand how the country is working, how the world is working, what is the situation. And yes, in this moment, we have the biological war, because I have catched the COVID-19. And when I went to take to see if I'm okay, they took from my blood. And I asked the laborant, I thought, for me, this is war. And she told me, yes, because this virus has 4 stamms that they'll be never connected in the world. Somebody have connected them. That means this is the biological war. But that's not mean we need to stick to live, okay? For me, it was around 40, 50 days to pass this, but I have passed it, I don't care. But this is situation. Let's start to know the laws of our countries and how we can do this together all over the world. Otherwise, you will be not successful. You will stay in the water on the top like you are in a boat, but you don't know, because it's very good. People will receive UBI, people will receive UBI, but nobody can give like this the money. They need to be put it in the law. They need to be put it in the constitution in the country. They need to change the how business is working, because this is so complicated and so complex. You need to change all the laws of the country for the business, for the society, for the social work, for the law. And if we don't do everyone for the countries, nobody can do it. For that, this need to be a lot of work, and together with this work can be making the network of the for every one country and for all over the world for the UBI advocates, and also like union, basic income union. And we need to start to use the same words all over the world if we want to succeed. Because if in Turkey are using different words from Bulgaria, in Brazil are using different, India is different, we are making a big mess to the people, a big house. We need to speak the same words, otherwise you will not be like one, otherwise you will not succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivailo. Very interesting contributions. There's a comment in the chat box from Koray, I guess. He says that great ideas. Maybe we can list all the ideas and evaluate. I think this is what we want to achieve too. And also another interesting thing is, you remember the Endo Schmidt's presentation last week, I guess, or 10 days ago, roughly. I'm trying to, I prepared a voice text document of it. So we have the text of it, but it's not good quality. And from this text, I'm trying to make bullet points, maybe 10, 12 suggestions from his full speech of 1 hour. So we better have some small, single, and very well-designed sentences or targets or instructions from these valuable contributions. Thank you very much, Ivailo. Luke, would you like to say anything? You are unmuted.
Oh, yes. Well,
please.
Not really, but except that the idea that was mentioned by Paul of organizing a citizens' assembly seems to me something out of the box for us to have people more aware of what the basic income is, and to have some people just thinking about it, freely. And we've had such an assembly here on the Constitution of Quebec, and it was a great success. It was what came out of it was very interesting. I would like to have something like that in Quebec, and I think it would be good ideas all over the place to have people. I think Paul mentioned that, huh? Paul, you mention citizens' assembly, didn't you?
Yeah, I can expand.
That's what I gathered from your.
I can expand on that.
Excuse me.
Pete, I can expand on
anyway,
that.
That's the only thing I would like to. I wanted to see.
Okay, just for those who aren't familiar with the idea, there are two phrases. One is People's Assembly and the other one is a Citizens' Assembly. So this is for people who don't know the difference between them. We could have a People's Assembly right here, right now. We could decide on a question that we'd like to discuss, and we could go into breakout rooms and we could decide who were the best facilitators to ensure that everybody had their voice heard. And that would be a People's Assembly. A Citizens' Assembly is a random selection of citizens in a particular location, which is what Luke's referring to with the constitutional issue in Quebec. We've just had one in the UK, but it wasn't very good because it didn't have any teeth. The key issue with a Citizens' Assembly is that beforehand, the government has to acknowledge that it will act on the recommendations of that assembly. It might say that assembly should have over 80% of people thinking this, and then we will definitely act on it. And that's more like what's going on in France, right? Well, it's just finishing in France now. Macron is actually, he's been quite supportive of it. it came up with something like 96 recommendations. Macron has knocked 4 of them back, including a law on ecocide. But yeah, that's very briefly what a citizens' assembly is. And you can kick off the idea of a citizens' assembly by having lots of people's assemblies where it's random. But a citizens' assembly is actually quite an expensive thing to put together. Yeah.
Yes, well, what I have in mind is that us and all over the world, we could have sort of private organized assemblies, and they wouldn't try to influence the government as such or directly, but it could be a cheapest way to organize a sort of pilot. You know, it would be a pilot of the idea instead of a pilot of a UBI. And I think that's what I have in mind. You know, something that we could organize without having the imprimatur of the government. Maybe that would be a good. It's amongst the out of the box ideas.
That's quite interesting, because citizens' assemblies, the biggest ones that have happened have been for countries. And I know quite a few people who'd like to do one for the world, because we've got a lot of international problems, therefore we need international solutions. So a world citizens' assembly would be very interesting. Very hard to do given the nature of languages. And obviously the people here on this Zoom, most of us are relatively wealthy compared to the vast majority of the world's population, and you'd want everybody to be represented. So you'd have to be very respectful towards their language and translators, etc. I've tried to get it organized through the UN without much success.
Well, my idea was very, very small. It's something that
maybe we should do it in this meeting one month.
Well, we could have some sort of yes, the citizens' assembly organized by Ali in the next few months.
I mean, we can do everything. I mean, no problem. We, started these meetings about 3 years ago by dear Jenna, but since April, we are holding in a more often fashion. Paul, look, I mean, if you would like to design something like this, why not to have it?
Okay, I'll put a proposal together.
Okay, I mean,
yes, and I could participate in it because I've been close to that assembly that we have organized privately. It's a theater company organized that in Quebec to create a constitution for Quebec, and so it was privately organized, and I've been in touch with people who organized it, so I know about it.
I mean, if you can have a draft mechanism
on that anytime.
Okay, why not try? I mean, if you can have a mechanism how it will work and how it will function, then why not to do it? Dear Paul, I would like to say one thing. I will send it in a written way to the BNEC2. I think World Basic Income is an affiliated party to the BN. Am I correct?
Yeah.
And BN Norway, Ingun, I guess BN Norway is also an affiliated party to BN. Dear Ingun, am I correct? Sarat and Hilda, we had a chat with them, and they would like to do very interesting things. So I said, what are the affiliated parties are doing? I mean, affiliated networks are doing nothing. I mean, once upon a time, they made the application, and during General Assembly, they were accepted. Now they are affiliates. Okay, but what next? So I said, why not to have assembly meetings of the BN affiliates, maybe 3 times a month, 3 times a year, pardon, 3 times a year. So these affiliates can come together and make some discussions, and maybe at the end of these meetings, maybe resulting document can be shared at the press. I am writing this, and I will make it ready before the 17th of this month, because on 17th, you know, there is the General Assembly, and also there will be the EC meeting. So the idea is to have an assembly of the BN affiliates, and these affiliates can come together and make some discussions, and at the end of these meetings they can prepare a press release and say something about something ongoing. What you say, Paul? Or look, I don't know whether your network is a member of BN or not. I don't know. That's why I didn't mention it.
Yeah, I think myself and Luke should kick this off, then throw it a little bit open a bit more widely. We'll need people to volunteer as facilitators. We'll need a few. And if there's interest from BN or whoever else, then fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, no, they can be separate. I mean, we can make both. No problem.
Yeah. Or yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, because sometimes you remember the letter to the UN General Secretary of United Nations. That time they work a lot to collect the signatures. We give support them too. But if there's such an assembly, then these things may be handled in a more quick manner. I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, then if there's nothing else, so let me say something. On 14th of December, hopefully, maybe we will be able to hear Valeria during the best practices during UBI GC. Ivailo, oh, you are here, Ivailo. I thought you left the meeting.
No, I'm here. Just I needed to finish something for a second.
Yeah, is Valeria here? Oh, she left.
No, she left. She wrote that she need to go.
Okay. The problem is tomorrow during the coordination meeting, we can discuss, and if they accept, we can ask Valeria to talk on Monday during the best
I'll
practice.
be asked Valeria to talk on Monday, because there it's not right. You know, when somebody managed to succeed something, you need to hear from this person. You need to learn something.
Yeah, you are.
And
exactly.
This is very important.
No, you are right. And she is happy, and she accepted. And tomorrow we will talk with Klaus and you and the others.
Yeah, we talk tomorrow. I have told to them, because this is the most important thing and all the people over the world need to acknowledge this. If somebody succeeds, if somebody is going, just follow. You have what to learn from this person.
Ivailo, tomorrow night we will solve it, no problem.
Okay.
And we will hear Valeria on Monday. And on 17th, you know, BN General Assembly will be held. There are 2 administrative issues for your information. And 22nd of December, it's the 4th Tuesday, we will have the meeting, but I don't know how many of you will join, but we can continue our discussions. I mean, we can continue with out of the box or beyond comfort zone visions. Thank you very much. It was very nice to see you all.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, everybody else.
Thank you, Ivailo. See you tomorrow, Ivailo.
Yes, see you tomorrow.
On Thursday. No, Friday. Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow we speak.
Yes. No, we have another technical issue with England. Okay. I watched Indian films, very interesting, 2 of them. Dangal and PK, and the other one was McCoy. McCoy or MC. I don't remember well, but PK is very interesting. Let me write into the chat box too. For all our friends.
Your pronunciation is different, so.
No, PK, an Indian film. Please watch it. It's very interesting. Thank you very much to all of you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Paul.
everybody.
Thank you, Yardor.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Good
Bye.
evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are.
Good morning.
Good night.
Bye-bye to everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, ciao.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.